This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this StockBox interview. Joining us today is Mike Whitlow, the MD of ECR Minerals. Mike, it's good to be catching up with you. How are you?
I'm pretty well, thanks, Mike.
So the first thing I think we should address, Mike, is of course that placing that happened this week, that £950,000 that you raised there through a subscription. Of course, it was at a 20% discount to the share price, which is always painful, I think, for investors to see. That any dilution is, of course, painful, even though it is a natural course of the markets and exploration companies. But when it's at a discount as well, I think particularly just from ECR, when shareholders have perhaps been expecting cash coming from disposal of assets, etc., and sort of lots of positive speak, it perhaps came as well as a surprise. So, I mean, just first of all, on that, why was that the right decision from yours and the board's point of view?
I mean, look, to be really frank, we're looking for certainty to be able to take projects forward. And what the fundraise did is it gave us absolute certainty that we could fund the 2025 work program and we could accelerate the project at Blue Mountain. We understand that companies of our size need to start to grow up and mature, and we need to get to production and revenue generation. And that decision basically bound us to be able to get the outcome that we wanted and the guarantee that's needed. We're running a public company, not a private one, and the decision was taken to do that. We understand that investors might feel disappointed. I don't think it's just a shameful discount at 20%. It's the figure. It's not easy to raise £1 million in the market these days. If you look at where we've traded over the last 12 months, we're at the top end of the average range that we've traded within. So I think it's acceptable. I'm not saying that I'm cock-a-hoop about it or super thrilled, but it's acceptable, and we've got to make acceptable decisions for this business. We've been paid in shares. We understand that investors who want to see an improved share price see this as a step back, but it really is only one step back to make two forward.
And just thinking from your point of view, when of course you weren't involved in companies directly, but from the other side of the fence, effectively as a shareholder and as quite an active and vocal shareholder, would you be having a go at the board from that position now, or can you sort of empathise a bit with shareholders' feelings?
Well, in this situation, I can definitely empathise because I think that it's a necessary evil raising money with companies, and whilst this business in particular has a really strong balance sheet now and a great opportunity to continue to recover funds. I guess the error here with the benefit of hindsight is we did an interview last week and we talked about a disposal of another non-core asset at Brewing Lane. And of course, we're quite excited because we've been successful in disposing of all of the other non-core assets. So, why people think we won't do it here, I don't know. But anyway, we were quite happy about that. Some media goes out, and then the next day we get offered this package of funding. And I can understand how assumptions are made. But look, I would likely flag that up myself. But I think I would give people a fair crack, an explanation. And I think we've done that. I think we've explained it. We make decisions here that are not always easy. And we make decisions that at times will upset some of our shareholders. But what we won't do is hide away from them. We will be accountable and we'll speak to all of the shareholders and give them an explanation, whether they decide that they want to remain invested and supportive of the stock or not. It's an obligation and we're obligated to do that. Look, if anybody's disappointed or upset, I must apologise. We can't apologise for trying to do the right thing commercially for the business, but I can certainly apologise if people's expectations have not been met or if they feel that this was not the right thing to do. We make decisions as a board on this occasion, and on most occasions, I didn't have any complaints. We have to do the right thing for the business, and it was a decision that we took based on quite significant changes over the last sort of month or two. We have been really fortunate to have got some very interesting results from our recent Gecko report and the work that we've conducted up at Blue Mountain. Not only are we developing assets in that part of Queensland, we have additional assets in Lulworth. We've signed an agreement with Geological Survey to collaborate. They're interested in our rare earths, and we'll have some work conducted. Won't cover all ground, we have discussed it. And yeah, we're getting a lot of interest from academia as well. So it would appear that Queensland's really starting to pique the interest up there, and we've got a great opportunity at Blue Mountain. We've strengthened our team with a new sort of geologist consultant or consultant geologist in Mike Parker, and we'd really like to get on and start to accelerate that particular project. Of course, investors will be aware and shareholders. We're drilling with the diamond drill at Tambo. We've had a first look and a set of results last week, and there'll be more to follow in the very near future. So from a business perspective, things have never been better. We're fully funded for the entire 2025 campaign. I'll have our guys back out in the field at first availability at Lulworth, sooner at Blue Mountain, and we'll be working on the modelling. In order to do that, you need funds, and the funds from the disposals of non-core assets will come. But there's just a little bit more that needs to be done, to be perfectly frank with you, Mark. And we either patiently sit and wait, or we make a decision to press forward. And what we found, and I strongly believe in this, is companies that sit and don't, remain active, generally don't perform too well. And it was it's a difficult decision. We've been offered funds, numerous times over the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks from lots of different people, and we didn't think it was the right sort of quantum of cash or the right level. And based on the decision on accelerating other assets, we were presented again with another opportunity. And contrary to belief and some of the assumptions that have been made in the investment community and some of the commentators, that offer came in pretty late. We agreed to accept it, and it was all done and dusted and tied up in a few hours. And that's the level of interest that we've been getting. So, it's not easy to raise just shy of £1 million in the markets. And I think if you look at the price, whilst it may be a little bit off where we were trading last week, if you look at the sort of range over the last year, it's probably at the upper end of the range. So, whilst some investors may think that it wasn't a great decision, we think it, based on some simple analysis, that level was acceptable. And that's not to take away from, any comments and interviews that I've done around that time. I spoke with Andrew Scott, and we talked about the sale of Bruin Lane. And of course, we're pleased, we're excited at being able to make these disposals, because when we joined the company, and I probably spoke to you, Mark, and plenty of other people at the time, they'd say, what drew you to joining the business? And I said, look, I knew there wasn't a lot of cash. I knew the assets had perhaps not been worked particularly well over the last couple of years. But I knew there was some great opportunity, because some of those assets have been able to capture the attention of some pretty major mining companies, and they were in the data room probably 3 or 4 years ago. So I knew the assets were not terrible. I knew that they had an inventory, excavators, drilling rigs, land packages, and of course, some non-core assets and accumulated tax losses. So for me, it was a case of, if we can start to unlock some of that value from those disposals and be able to really push these assets forward, this company was valued at tantamount to nothing, and I felt it was a great opportunity. And what we said over a year ago stands today, really. We have been successful in doing what we said. We said we would drill a couple of times, and we have done. We said that we would advance at Blue Mountain, and we had some fantastic results there. And we think by taking shares as payment, ourselves as directors of the company, the integrity of the share price is as important to us as it is to shareholders. So I feel like I've kind of just spoke at you for a couple of minutes there, Mark, but that gives you a bit of background as to where we are. And look, we're really proud of the developments we're making. So last week we sold, or we agreed a sale agreement on one of the other non-core assets at Bruin Lane. And yeah, we're happy about it. We're happy to have sold and unlocked money from within this business that many other people before us had tried to and failed, or perhaps some speculated we would never be able to do. So I think what's happening is people are looking at comments regarding last week's news, and the interview that went out. And of course, it doesn't look great from the surface, but people are making assumptions that, we were fully aware that we were, looking to raise money, or we'd engaged a stockbroker, and that just simply is infactual and not true.
Right. Okay. So that's set that straight. That's not true. It wasn't. Yeah, I have seen comments about sort of ramping, etc., promotion ahead of a raise. But you're basically saying that you were approached with an offer that you thought was almost too good to refuse, effectively.
We were presented with an amount of cash that meant that we would fund the 2025 work program. We would accelerate this company into revenue generation and production and getting that asset ready during 2025. That's a pretty unique position to be in. I think Nick has commented on this himself, and I completely concur with him. It's very unusual for small resource companies ever to be able to bring assets into production themselves and just revenue generation. Often it's a case of we go out and we explore and we look for opportunities, and then we look to partner and bring in, sufficient counterparties to assist us in that process, or indeed maybe even dispose and sell the project at that point in time. We're in a quite unique position. We're quite small cap, have a great opportunity to start taking these assets into commerciality, all being well. And we have a really strong balance sheet. We're fully funded. We've got plenty of cash around us now in the interim. If we're successful in the disposal of the non-core assets and accumulated tax losses, then the cash that comes into the business is, quite significant. We also have some royalties over a gold asset at Avoca that previous management disposed of, and I think it's been guided to the market from the company now that operate that asset that they intend to put out a resource report. We get a payment based on every ounce of gold in that resource report, and then we get a payment additional to that when they start to produce gold. So I think there's lots of hidden opportunities here, and I think the misconception here is if you do a deal on a Monday, you'll be paid on a Tuesday. I mean, this isn't like buying a box of eggs at Marks and Spencer's. There's a little bit more work that goes into it. But underlying situation really for ECR is we've got a strong balance sheet, got a great runway for our 2025 work program. And during that period of time, we're hopeful we can continue to really bolster that cash position within the business. And that's not a bad place for a company like ours to be in.
So on those tax losses then, has it been sort of agreed in principle it's now going through the formalities?
I think that's a fair assumption. I think if you look at the announcement that was made today and you take away the cautionary statements and the caveats, which are put in for good reason, I might add, what we've said to the market today is the buyer is still buying. The buyer has now looked at this opportunity, decided to advance, and we're progressing in that process. They're engaging and instructing advisors to structure this transaction. The step after that is to sign and have a sale agreement. And if we're successful, we intend to recover a significant amount of cash for our shareholders.
Well, I was going to say, you say a significant amount of cash. Any idea what that looks like, or would that be inappropriate to comment on?
Look, I think at this point, it would be inappropriate because we have 5 different people that were in the data room. And if we sort of put a stamp out there on that figure, then we will never, ever be able to, in the event that something didn't work out, be able to improve on that figure. You'd be setting a line in the sand and you would never be able to come up above that or ahead of it. You'd always be behind it. So the sensible thing to do here is to, sit on that figure. And look, there's variations of terms and what they would look like, and whether that figure is changeable based on certain adjustments to an agreement with the prospective buyer at this time.
So this fundraising here, effectively, that funds you through 2025, is that right? And you said it was the right thing to do. You've explained the rationale behind that to get into cash flow. That's from Blue Mountain, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. It is. I think when you've taken the rump of your remuneration over 15 months in shares, I find it galling to have people say this is a lifestyle company. This company is not really parted with a lot of cash for the energy and efforts that have been put in. And, ultimately people back us as a management team. If they're losing money and the share price is declining, the value of the work that we've done is declining with it. So, we are in the trenches together here. I do understand that there's some short-term frustrations, and I understand that there's going to be periods where perhaps there's misconception or misunderstanding, or even market commentators making assumptions. Unfortunately, we can't control the way that people think. What we can do is we can reassure people that our intentions here are for the greater good. We're in a very, very strong position. We're in a very unique position, and we're excited about the future of this business. And if we're successful here, Mark, the till just keeps on ringing. And that gives us opportunity. It allows us to move at a faster pace and get a lot more done. And as directors who don't like to sit on the hands, we're making the right decisions for the business to be able to move at the pace that we'd like to be moving at.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, Mike Whitlow, the Managing Director of ECR Minerals. If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.